You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Do you ask yourself any of these questions? Will I ever be able to get out of debt? Will I ever be able to retire? How am I going to pay for my children's education? How do I begin saving for my family's future? And if something were to happen to me, will my family be taken care of? Have you struggled in finding the answers? Forever Forward Financial can help answer these and many more questions about your financial future by teaching you how money works, by providing you the financial education you seek, by assisting you in making the right retirement or educational decisions that are best for you and your family, and by helping you take the necessary steps in establishing and meeting your financial goals. Please call us today and schedule your complimentary, no-obligation meeting to discuss your needs and concerns. The number, 727-422-7761.
Hi, this is Tiffany Werner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Werner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Werner.
Hi, we're back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Moments of Clarity. My name is Tiffany Werner. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And we're on a live radio show from 12 to 1, so you're welcome to call in and ask questions. I also post questions on Facebook Live, YouTube, or Twitter as well. Any questions or anything, we are live. And you can call in and join the conversation, ask questions, or give support or feedback at 866-826-1340. 866-826-1340. And today we're talking with a special guest and a friend of mine, and I'm so proud of him. He's a 25 years stand-up comedian as well, but also suffered a tragedy when he was just 8 weeks old as an infant. Had a lot of reconstructive healing to do physically as well as emotionally, because a drunk driver hit him and his family while driving, and he lost his mother at the same time. And of course, grief and loss had followed him through his family this entire time. And I'm very sorry for your loss as well. Oh, but I want to introduce you to Moments of Clarity, Micheal Gershe.
Thanks for having me back after the commercial break.
Yeah, but we didn't really cut people off at that time anyway. You're not Good. Special. Yes, you're special for making it back after the commercial break. Welcome callers to call in 866-826-1340. But right before we went to break, he was starting to talk about a little twist in this story. So yeah, tragic car accident, lost his mother, never really got a chance to meet his mother that you probably remember. And which is such a shame. And it's such a shame and sudden loss. And 3 to 6 years, at least the guy's not around anymore. But for the driver to serve time, I'm sure that is very frustrating. That's not that, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a judge for the courts or anything like that. But no, I would be, if I was you, Micheal, I would be very upset about that low of a sentence or consequence.
Yeah, I still am a little bit. When you read it, it's like, wow, that's it. An interesting story. Many years ago when I met Gene Simmons and I told him how he was an influence in my life, and I told him the story, he asked how long the Harvey got. And when I told Gene that he only got 3 years, Gene's mouth just dropped open. And wow. He goes, that's it? He goes, I believe in vengeance, an eye for an eye. And I said, yeah, Gene, probably in my 20s or early 30s, yeah, I probably would have pulled the trigger too if I came across him. But, it's not going to bring back my mom. And I've been blessed, to have.
So let's go to the twist to this story right now. So you were raised by somebody. It might not have been your biological mom,
right?
But
yeah, I was raised by my father and this wonderful woman named Dolly. Dolly is originally from Jamaica. She was living in England at the time of the car crash. She was the first police woman in Scotland Yard.
Wow.
And she was visiting her sister in New York, and she was there for like 3 months. And she saw an ad that my grandmother put in the newspaper for part-time help. And she answered it, set up an appointment with my grandmother, but didn't show up for the interview. She just blew it off. And let's talk about fate fate. If fate didn't happen to me, I wouldn't believe in it myself. A few weeks goes by, she saw the ad again, called, and no one took the job. So this time she actually made the interview with my grandmother, came up to the house in Spring Valley, because we lived about an hour or so away from Brooklyn. And, my grandmother introduced her to me, and I was in the crib, and Dolly put her fingers inside the crib, and she said, I latched onto him and smiled. And she said, this is where I needed to be. This family needs me more than anything else. And
especially after you had all your bones crushed.
Right, exactly.
And so for you to grasp onto her hand, it was just a destiny instant.
Right.
Because you weren't able to move back then that much, at that time. You were still recovering.
Mm-hmm. Baby instinct, I guess. And so, she felt like, this is where I have to be, instead of like Scotland Yard, to go back to Jamaica and be a nurse. And when she was introduced to my brother a little bit later on in the afternoon, my brother, who was 3, looked at my father, and my grandmother said, Jeff, this is Dolly. She's going to be looking after you and your brother. And my brother, looked at my father and said, hey, Dad, we're big men. We don't need any help. She's here for the baby. And, what was supposed to be a part-time job, when her visa was up, my grandfather sponsored her to stay. Sponsored her, kidnapped her. I'm still not too sure on those details. But this woman gave up her dream to be a nurse to continue to raise me and my brother as her own flesh and blood. So I was raised by this woman named Dolly and my dad at the same time. And you try to feel, in any tragedy, you try to find a silver lining. And I really think, we were blessed. The stars lined up, however you want to call it, for this woman who, raised us. I always, we always joke, I go, she raised me as her own. She beat me as her own, but she loved us. And she taught me about unconditional love and what the human spirit is willing to do for each other. And, I think we're starting to see a little bit of that in today's society, a little bit of that unconditional love and that compassion, but man.
Not enough of it, but sure.
Yeah. And
it's starting to, especially with the coronavirus and everything, people really reaching out and trying to be there for one another, no matter what, and for free.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for her, because my dad mentally kind of checked out. He wasn't the same, and even in the first year she was in the house with us, as she said, even my dad didn't talk for like the first year. So there was that transition for him, because he was like, well, who's this woman to raise my boys at first, but. They slowly formed a relationship over time, over those 40-something years. And, something beautiful really blossomed from that. She's, mothers it doesn't have to be by birth, right? And you're a mom, so it's by love. And this woman loved us unconditionally. And that love came back, because that's all I knew, since I was, she started in October of 1970 or November-ish. And, be 50 years that, she's been my mom. Come, later this year. And, when I was writing the book, she goes, don't use my name. I go, what? Do I still embarrass you? But in the book, her story is so important of who I am. So I had to share.
Why did she want you to use her name?
I don't know. I really don't. Because she's very humble, and she thinks what she did does not deserve any recognition. And I disagree with her on that, because it takes a special person to give up her dreams to raise, two babies that aren't hers. And back in 1970, 2 white Jewish kids too. So it wasn't about color, reed, or religion. It was based on
it was Jamaican and black, and you're white, Jewish, and
right. none of
But
that stuff mattered. It was these people need my help. And
I wish everyone could just look beyond all that stuff anyway.
Right. Yeah.
For just saying.
Right. So
Someone just on Facebook, David Aguilera said, Michael, what are some healthy coping skills you have to deal with your anger?
I would think my sense of humor helps a lot. I love going on hikes. I love biking, working out, watching movies, being with my friends. But, eating Oreos helps too sometimes, But I think, living in Northeast Ohio, I love going to our parks and nature therapy. And I love photography. My dad was in photography, and then I took that back up a few years ago when I started hiking. A friend of mine who's a photographer said, you should go get a camera. So I was able to blend those two passions. And for me, when I'm out in nature and I can hear the birds chirping or the streams or the waterfalls, that's a huge coping mechanism for me. And I went through grief counseling after my father and my aunt passed away 90 days apart in 2018, where my coping skills wasn't that strong. And I was at the end of my rope with the grief, and everything was just coming to a head. So I had to learn some healthier coping decisions. But yeah, I love going on hikes. Naps works too, but music. But
what kind of comedy do you go through when you stand up? 25 years as a stand-up comedian, and I've seen you do TEDx talks too.
Right, the TEDx, yeah. But
so I know that you also speak for MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You do inspirational talks to help prevent this from happening to anyone else as well.
Right.
So you've gone through, complete post-traumatic stress, obviously, even if you weren't old enough to remember, but growing up without a mom and how your dad handled it, all that stuff, a lot of humor. Your brother remembers. How old was he at the time?
So my brother was 3. So, there are bits and pieces that he remembers, but, even he had to go through that change too. When my dad would leave for work, he would sort of freak out because, one day mom didn't come home. And as a 3-year-old, he was worried, well, dad's going to leave for work and he may not come home either. So, that was tough for him. Not having memories of my mom, that was difficult too, with depression and all those what ifs that go through your head. And it wasn't until I finally went to grief counseling, and one of the first questions she asked was, well, let's talk about your mom's death and how that impacted all your relationships. And for the very first time, I had to examine that problem within myself and really flush out those issues about my mom's death and talk about it and heal. And it was life-changing for me.
Okay. I know you can relate. Like, I was 18 when I lost my mom and found her, and that's why I'm a therapist today. And I explained it, and when I did a little self thing, whatever. I'm not going to really go into it all right now, but even as 18, I had blocks in my memory trying to look back until I went through therapy and healed and everything, and can look back. And I was stuck with the anger a long time.
Sure.
And therapy really helped. And of course, comedy. I don't do stand-up comedy, but weird sense of humor. Trying to see the silver lining. Trying to see the silver lining, not take life too seriously. Right. I mean, it helps with a lot of stuff, where it's like, kind of pick your battles and try to look at the positive side to any situation. If there's a negative side, there's always a flip over. There's a healthy way to look at it too.
Right.
Positive automatic thinking and things like that. But it's tough going through that and having someone else raise you, but you didn't really know any better. So
right.
Dolly sounds like an angel sent to you as if it was meant to be.
She is. And people that read the book they want to meet her. And, I surprised her. It'd be coming up last June when the book came out, and I couldn't put her copy in the mail. So I flew down to South Florida and
let's see the cover of it.
Here's the cover.
A son's journey of trauma after tragedy, grief and a Speedo. I always remember the magic of life, but the Speedo thing always throws me off.
It does for everyone else too. So, it's you could get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble right now too, which is kind of cool. And